I don't know why I didn't say that. Ugh.
Imagine me hanging out with you and someone calls and I'm like, yeah, I'm hanging out with Phil.
First of all, you don't call me Phil.
Well, no, exactly. But you also don't call me Michael.
I try calling you Michael.
When?
I try.
I
Because
don't know,
Erica,
some time ago in the last years.
I try. Hey guys, welcome back to Phil Plays TCG, and today is a very special occasion, a very big video, and I could think of no one less than to do this video with than my co-host, my eternal rival, my training partner, my brother, Michael. So welcome to the channel once again.
Yeah, glad to be here. It's really exciting that the set is right around the corner. Again, we got all this stuff, the rest of the set recently, so we've kind of been trying to jam as much testing as we can until the set is released. And they didn't give us a lot of time because I wish we'd be doing more testing for a video like this. Obviously, predicting, a kind of a tiers list here, prediction video.
Prediction, big emphasis on prediction. This is
Yeah, we're emphasizing it's a prediction. It is minimalistic testing, just in terms of, we only have so much time in the day each week. And of course, these last few days before the set comes out. So with that little bit of testing, we're going to predict what leaders are in which tiers. It could very much change. It could change a week from now. It could change 2 weeks, 3 weeks, a month or two. It could very well change. We're not oracles here. We're just going to give our 2 cents, put out some content, and hope you guys enjoy it.
Exactly. We got a lot of testing in a week or so ago, almost 2 weeks ago, Jesus. And we had some thoughts, we had some opinions, but then of course, right after we got done with it, we got the rest of the reveals, and we've practiced it between each other with some other players. We've gotten some feedback from other players, and I think this will be a fun topic to just go over where we think the leaders will be. Like Michael said, our tier list here, we got 4 tiers. Tier at the very top here, we have tournament winners, aka Z-tier. Basically, these are leaders that we can easily see winning some big events. Like, it's not a big surprise if this deck won a regional. No surprise there. Next, we have Top Cut or A tier. Basically, Top Cut is decks you will see in Top Cut, but you don't see winning as often, or we don't think we'll see win as often. These are also decks that could very well miss some of their bad matchups throughout the day and get into Top Cut that way. But hey, they're still good decks, just not ones that we can easily see winning tournaments. Third, we have locals or B tier. Basically, decks you're going to see at the local level. These decks are going to be better off at the local level. They will do well at locals, but may not do as well in a big tournament scene. Whether it's because this deck does really well into like 2 matchups, but does bad in most other matchups. And finally, we have the missing something or D tier. Basically, decks we feel like are just missing something that could really help them pop off. Now, there may not be a deck that fits into this tier, but as we discussed today, there might be 1 or 2 decks that pop up. But for the most part, I feel like every deck is viable in some capacity. But who knows? You'll have to watch you'll have to watch the whole video. And for those who are going to skip to the very end, shame on you. You're not going to hear any of the good conversation here. But we appreciate you guys watching the whole video from here. And yeah, let's get this started. Subscribe, like the video, comment down below what you think is going to be the best deck in the format, all that typical YouTube stuff. But let's start with red. We'll start with red leaders and kind of go from there. Let's start off with our favorite starter deck leader that we were messing with the last month, and that is starter Goku. The deck is good. I think it took a while for the deck to be very good in this meta, and of course it happens near the very end, but I think this is a solid, like, generically good red leader and red deck all around, just red good stuff deck. But there's not a whole lot of things in this set that really like buff this leader in particular, but that doesn't mean that it doesn't get support in this next set, and it doesn't mean the deck is bad for it. I think that this is going to be my opinion here. Tell me if you think I'm wrong. I think starter Ku is in top cut or A tier.
Yeah, I actually agree. I think my biggest issue is actually finding a deck that I truly believe is a tournament winner in Z tier with the minimal testing we've done. Like, I think red is the best color. I think if someone came to me and was like, I think Starter Ku's in Z tier, I'd be like, okay, I'll like listen to that argument and possibly agree. But just again, with it not out yet, and we just don't know or haven't tested enough, like we know this deck is good. Red is very good. People figured out that if you build red a certain way, you can rush down green, who was the boogeyman for the better part of the set 1 meta. And then it's good into yellow. It is good into blue for the most part. I just felt like once people figured out how to build it the best, it became one of the top decks, if not the top deck. I really love Starter Ku. We both like a really solid reason why it should be Z tier. Go ahead and comment it below. But I just think red is so good with its removal. It's not like energy locked. It's not cost locked or anything like that, which is what makes removal, I think, better than green is, a cost or less. Yellow is in rest mode, cost or less. Blue is to hand or bottom deck, cost or less. While like removal, it's as simple as if you can get it to 0, doesn't matter how much it costs, you can get rid of it. I think is awesome. So long story short, I think this deck is great. I think A tier is probably a good place for it.
Yeah, I definitely think the deck can brick, but it does have some new tools in set 2 that are definitely going to help it out. Now, I don't think it's the best red deck. We'll get to that in a little bit, but let's start with, I'm looking at the wrong screen here. We'll start with the next red leader, U7 Goku. And honestly, I think he's up in A tier as well, but there are some arguments that you could make to put him in Z tier. But I do think he fits more comfortably in A tier because you do have more U7 cards introduced in this set. Sure, this leader only works with U7, while the new Goku works with Tournament of Power in general. But like, you build a decent enough board full of great U7 battle cards, you can easily overwhelm your opponent. I can see this deck still popping off. It's gotten a lot of really good support. Some of the best red cards in set 2 are U7. And this deck will just take advantage of them even more. So yeah, I think A tier is a solid spot for it.
Yeah, it got a really good tool in the new 1-cost Frieza. That's a 15k. That's when you're awakened, it turns into a 20k. And then since it's a U7 card, it is literally, once you're awakened, a 1-cost 25k. You can't beat such a well-statted card. I think it is still a 5k combo as well, which is crazy. U7, right, was a low to the ground spam strategy, and it got better stuff, right? Like your best statted card was the vanilla TN from the starter deck that, 1-cost vanilla 15k, but becomes a 20k when you are awakened. So it's a lethal swing even past when your opponent is awakened. So you got those. You got now the Frieza that is a 5k statted higher card. And then, like, of course, red was still U7 / Tournament of Power in set 2. So, like, other U7 cards you get are better now. So there's the 3-cost SR Gohan. That's 25k when you're awakened. Now is a 30k with this leader. Also minuses 15k on swing. It's also a Self-Awakener. You've got other good Roshi cards. You've got Piccolo cards. You've got a lot of stuff that still has the U7 tag to really kind of fill out a wider spread of cards utility that this deck can use. It's still the biggest go wide, turn right deck, which can win some matchups if you are able to defend correctly. Your opponent doesn't have the right stuff by the right time to clear your board back. This deck can get super punished by Gohan SCR in green. But if they don't get to it, that's 7 energy, right? If they don't get to it fast enough, then green's probably in danger anyway. So yes, just like Starter Ku, like red is such a good color right now, and it got some really good cards, one specifically being the Frieza in the set that I think very much so A tier. I haven't practiced with it myself, haven't played against it, but just knowing the cards that are out there, I wouldn't be surprised if this did end up in Z tier, when things are said and done.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And next we have red Beerus. Now I feel like this is kind of like you mentioned, red is in a really good spot right now, and it got so many amazing tools. And Beerus was pretty much like the control red deck of the format, which is weird to say red control, but is it weird to say that I'd probably also throw him in A tier, or do you think he's dropped down to B tier?
So I think people will, this might be a decision of ours that people will critique. I can be very much persuaded into this being in the A tier as well. So I was actually theory crafting Beerus earlier today because I was looking at, again, the red card pool. There is the new 2-cost 20k crit Kefla that is simply a better card than the 2-cost 15k crit from set 1, right? Each color got one. Beerus, if people wanted to go crit heavy Beerus, they went, turn 1 was either going second with the marker. You could play the 15 crit immediately. So your opponent had to deal with leader swing and then a 15k crit swing. Well, now they have to immediately deal with leader swing and then Kefla swings, right? So you're going 20k crit, 20k crit. Well, that's like turn 1 going second, right? 2 20k crit swings. Your opponent either is giving stuff away or they have to take the life, right? Which is just not what anyone wants to do. It's very uncomfortable for them. So, but now it's as simple. If you get that high roll first turn and they can't get rid of your 20k Kefla, on their turn 2 going first, and you have another Kefla in hand, right? Then on your second turn of the entire game, you've swung with your 3rd, 4th, and 5th 20k crit, is a really tough way for opponents to kind of deal with that early game. Now, that's just cool to really maximize the crit stuff. In general, red got a lot of good stuff. A lot of good minusing stuff, a lot of good if this or KO card with X power or less, like there's the Kitella, which is a 2-cost 20k body that KOs a 15k or less, right? You've got the Rumshi's a 5-cost 30k that KOs a 30k or less. You've got the Hela, I believe her name is, one of the gods of destruction, that is, if you can choose something with 30k power or more and minus it by 20, it's a 4-cost 25k body. Now, the stats are kind of whatever on those, but those are just much bigger bodies that also minus larger amounts. Now, with Beerus, the minusing effects are even better because you give it a higher 10k spectrum to hit because it's 10k for the leader effect plus whatever card you're playing and their ability is. So Kitella gets rid of 25ks essentially. Hela minuses a 30k all the way down because it's her 20 plus is 10. Stuff like that, what is it? Rumshi minuses 30k and your leader makes it 40k. So you're hitting 40k bodies off just leader in one card plate. So I'm really into Beerus. If you can't tell, I'm just really excited for the idea that this could be a much better leader because it's just expanded removal terms. So it's not going to be aggroing people down, but it's got much more of a control utility belt. So I was trying to build it today. I couldn't fit so many cards. There was too many cards I wanted to fit on it, which made it really tough. But I think that's a good thing because you have a lot of 2-cost 20k bodies that are 10ks as well. If you haven't noticed, the Kitella, the Rumshi, I believe, the Hela, correct me if I'm wrong, they're all 10k combos, man. This deck got a lot more defense. So I absolutely love it. I hope someone breaks it if I can't.
Absolutely. Yeah. Well, overall, just red got so many great tools. It's getting more difficult now to build a deck because there's so many amazing tools you just want to put in, but you can't because of consistency purposes. It's going to be really cool to see if, one, if they introduce a sideboard, and 2, if what deck builds are people are going to go with these new leaders. So yeah, I think right now, just based off all the reveals, I think it's safe to say that red in general is going to be a very feared color, and I think it's okay to put red in the upper echelons of our tier list. Especially, I'm about to drop this bomb here. Tell me if you disagree with me. I think the brand new Tournament of Power God Goku is our first Z tier.
Yeah, no, I agree.
The reason why is this leader is disgustingly good at being aggressive. Going down to 3 life sucks, but there are so many red cards that can take your life down, and your opponent's going to want to take your life down as quickly as they can to try and end the game before you can start popping off your leader ability. But the ability on its backside to free play 20k bodies, not free play, but drop 20k bodies for 1 energy is disgusting. There are so many cards that play other cards now when they come into play. There's cards that buff other battle cards as well as your leader. Red's amazing ability to clear board. Like, there are so many disgusting things Red can do now, and this leader in general, I think, is incredibly good at using those cards. And as of right now, I think this could be the best Red leader going into next set.
Yeah, I actually agree. This is the Red deck I've been testing the most, probably the, just in general, deck I've been testing the most. It does feel really gross when you flip and start doing stuff. It is such a snowball deck if you see exactly what you need. Like, if you have 2 Kefla in hand with cards to, like, with proper cards to play off of her effect as well on like back-to-back turns, and you don't let your opponent clear your board completely from like on their crackback, so you have like somewhat of an established board plus the whole new board that you're about to spit out. It's absolutely insane, because again, his effect with, you know, paying 1, discarding a card, you play out Kefla, which draws to replace the card you just pitched for your leader effect, and then you play out Gohan, which is a self-awakener if you still need to. It is a minus 15k on swing, and they're both 25ks as far as your turn when you're awakened. Kefla stays 25 at all times when you're awakened. Gohan is just 25 on your turn. Well, then off, you know, the other TOP cards like Kato Pesla, which is a 3-cost 20k that minuses 5 on play, on attack, and on KO. Good utility there. I like the Ribrianne card. I haven't really played her at all, but like the fact that the deck can threaten a 20k double strike card for like nothing if you play it off Kefla, or just like the effect in general if you don't Kefla into Ribrianne but you play Ribrianne, like, you know, opponents got to worry about going to 2. And so I think the TOP cards, they did a really good job of giving it like a spectrum, a full utility belt, I guess, as I keep saying, is there's a lot of like 2-ofs, maybe even some 1-ofs of certain TOP cards in this deck, because you just want to be able to have it on hand if the case arrives, right? Like, I don't play Ribrianne a lot, but like if my opponent ever isn't educated enough, doesn't understand they can't go to 2 in games with a double strike skill, and they do, and I go, okay, cool, I start my turn with the effect, play a double strike swing, and then I can spend all my energy and cards in hand to push that double strike through, you know, to get them. Like, they'll have to learn from that experience and they'll never forget it. Again, building the board, if your opponent can't clear the board on crackbacks, you're able to establish such a big board of mainly just 25Ks, right? You have the Goku TP promo, the 2-cost from set 1, on all these other really good cards that I've already talked about. And then you have the Clash of the Strongest, which is a 2-cost extra card that says, give all your Tournament of Power cards plus 10K for the turn. So imagine you have 2 Tournament of Power cards that are both 25K still on the board from the previous turn. And you go Kefla, Gohan for 1 energy, and say it's turn, you have 5 energy. You pay 2 more for another TOP or 3 more for another TOP, and you've got 2 more energy left, right? You use 3 of 5, slam that card down. You give essentially 5 cards plus 10K. And so you've got 5 roughly 35K swings plus your 20K leader. And if one of those cards is 17, your leader's 25 because it buffs your U7 leader when you're awakened. So, or actually not when you're awakened, just at all times if it's U7. And then you just turn right, and your opponent better hope they're either playing yellow to death ball and like help, you know, mitigate some of this attacks, or your opponent's hand is just going away, or they're simply dying. So yes, I think this deck is Z-tier. It can run out on itself because you eventually just keep playing cards that don't replace themselves, so you eventually run out of cards in hand. But even with such a small hand, if your opponent doesn't have the means to stop certain things, you can have 3 cards in hand, but you can go big leader swing, Kefla, another card, and then if you drew something else off the Kefla draw or leader swing, maybe 1 more. Like, you just don't need a lot of cards in hand to put on a lot of pressure. So closing out games is actually really good with this deck. And your opponent, you know, looks at you with 3 cards. It doesn't mean they're safe because of what those cards potentially could do. So yes, right. Z-tier on this deck, I love it.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, we've spoken enough about how absurdly gross red is. Let's talk about how blue went from the underdog of set 1 and now seems to have a solid footing in set 2. Starting with Vegeta. I've been putting a lot of time with this deck. I've gotten some practice games in with it, and I think the cards are there. for Vegeta to be a good leader, I'm throwing him in A tier. I think he's gotten a huge boost from the reveals from Blue. You have the amazing 4-drop Vegeta that buffs him by 5, as well as the Vegeta card itself by 5, which free plays the 1-drop Bulma, which buffs your leader or your other Vegeta card by 10,000. A lot of amazing blue removal. And the aggression this deck can put out rivals that of green in some of the attack powers that this deck can put out. I think the deck in general is just solid now. It may be the best blue deck in the format. We're still testing that, but I think it's safe to say Vegeta has earned his place in A tier.
Yeah, I really want to believe this as well. My testing hasn't been super good because I don't think I actually know how to play blue. It's like the one color I've played the least. So I'll always defer that to people with more experience playing blue and better opinions than mine. Vegeta's tools he got are the 3-cost Gotenks that you can play it, swing, and then return it to hand. And at the end of the turn, you play the 4-cost Gotenks that brings a Goten and Trunks back from your drop to your hand in rest mode. So you don't get that 25k swing for the turn, but it is 3 energy for a 20k swing, and then you can bring back 2 10ks from the drop, and then still have a 25k body on board that your opponent does have to worry about on the turn cycle. And then it also got the 4-cost Vegeta that is a 30k. It's a 0-cost combo, so it's like another boss-ish monster. So it's tough to fit those in when it's a 0k, but its effect is essentially that activate main, play a Bulma, I believe a 1-cost Bulma from your hand, which then leads to another new card, which is a 1-cost Bulma that buffs a Vegeta card by 10k for the turn, be it your leader, be it the 30k you just played. So they gave it its own like Haru and Maki, right? The Orphans card that Trunks from set 1. So those are the 3 main cards that Vegeta got. I don't like, they're good. Like they are good cards. They allow you more resource gain. They allow you to attack taller. The thing is, the Vegeta being a 0-cost combo, I don't necessarily like. Just because it's not like a double strike. It's not a 40k plus. I understand the Bulma can make it that way, but I just feel like the deck, it's like less removal than whatever it is. With Trunks, doesn't have a cool pop off top curve like Rose does with playing it 6 cost cheaper. It is a tall deck, right? And I know people found a way to build it where it beat Broly and Green and stuff. Well, that was because you went 15k spam and you were rushing people down before Green could do anything. Well, you play any other deck with good removal, like lower removal, which Green doesn't necessarily have, and the deck starts to feel bad. So you have to build Vegeta a different way. There's more mid-tier, being able to go low and high whenever it wants to or needs to. I want the deck to be good. I just feel like into red, it's probably not the best. If someone doesn't agree with that, they got to show me. Less removal than Trunks. I don't know. I want it to be good, but my opinion is that like it might still be the worst. It might still be the worst blue deck, but I think blue in general is actually good now in set 2, like better than it was. So I'd go in B tier. But I don't know if I have much of an opinion or enough experience to not keep it, to really put it in B tier. I think if it's A tier and you believe it, I'd be fine with it.
I can understand where you're coming from. A lot of the new blue cards have actual, if you've seen 10k combo power as their stat line, most blue cards in set 2 have 10k combo power. And I think they did that because they want to make sure blue has enough defensive combo power to, make up for the fact that they constantly have to be at 7 or less cards in hand. Now, I think, though, that when you look at the deck building, you're not running a lot of 5-drop double strike Vegetas anymore. You're maybe running 1 or 2, and you throw in like 3 or 4 copies of the new rare Vegeta that also has 0 combo power, and you maybe go down to 1 or 2 copies of the 5-drop. It kind of still balances itself out the same way that it did in set 1. But it is something I wish they would have given it at least 5k, but I can also understand why they didn't. And this could be me talking, like, thinking about all the different other cards that Blue got, like Absolute Lightning, the 3-drop Vegito that lowers the cost of all my opponent's battle cards by 1, which makes Sinister Sickle, Final Flash, and other cards that bounce or bottom deck cards much better than what they were in set 1. There's just a lot of things I think that could put Vegeta into A tier, but I can also imagine, like, I can understand if people don't see him as A tier, but I do think he is up there. But who knows? This could change by the end of the video, talking with the other blue leaders. Now,
yeah, and to be honest, my Vegeta build didn't have a lot of the new removal stuff, so I think if you build it that way, it probably feels better, because I felt like Vegeta couldn't clear like established boards well enough, as opposed to, again, Trunks and stuff like that. So I'm probably wrong. I probably built a bad Vegeta list, and we'll leave it at that.
All right, no worries. So next, let's talk about the second blue leader in set 1, Goku Black. This one, honestly, is a little tough for me, because Goku Black got so much amazing support in set 2. It's got more Zamasus, it's got more Goku Blacks, it has better top ends to go with the 6-drop Goku Black. But, like, at the end of the day, it still comes down to how fast can you play your 6-drop. And if you don't see a Zamasu or you don't see a Goku Black, the deck can still brick, or it can just feel bad playing, because you're not doing what the one thing this deck wants to do, which is play a Zamasu to bottom deck for a Goku Black. The fact that red can easily remove all of my Zamasus because they are so low in power that it's very easy for red to get around them. Heck, even the new, like, kind of invincible ruling that they gave to a couple Zamasus don't matter against red, because red's ability to neg cards, attack points, isn't a skill, it's game mechanics. So you can't even rely on those skills keeping your Zamasus around. And if your opponent knows what you're doing, which, like I said, Goku Black does one thing and one thing only, which is play your 6-drop Zamasu, 6-drop Goku Black. Ugh, if I can talk straight today. Play your 6-drop Goku Black as fast as possible. They know what you want to do. They're going to do everything they can to stop that from happening. And if you can't get your 6-drop Zamasu out on turn 4, or at the very latest turn 5, the deck just doesn't feel as good. And because of that, I'm probably going to piss off some people, and I really wish I could not put it in this category, but I think Goku Black is a locals deck. At least for now, based off of, like I said, red being a color that exists, green does great at KOing low to the ground battle cards. It just feels like this deck needed the protection of, Invincible, but because the game mechanics of how this game works, it doesn't matter. And if you can get rid of the Zamasus and you prevent your opponent from playing the Goku Black early, or heaven forbid you don't see your 6-drop Goku Black, the deck just doesn't pop off. But what do you think?
I think that the 2-cost Zamasu SR was huge for the deck, right? You got a body that's essentially same indestructible as Masters, I believe, right? It's just a permanent that simply reads, this cannot be removed from, like, by your opponent's skills, right? Is it KO'd or skills?
This card cannot be KO'd by skills, I believe. Let me validate.
Well, either way, like, if it's can't be removed or can't be KO'd, it's the same thing. Red can get around it, but, like, blue can't. Well, blue, if it says by opponent's skills, then it sucks in the mirror too, or that it's good into the mirror, because then they can't bottom deck or back to hand. But green and yellow can't get rid of it. So, like, the fact that they give you a card that says if you're playing half the colors, green and yellow, it can't be removed and will be there for your whatever it is. Be there for the big pop off with a 6-cost. So, like,
here we go. 2-drop Zamasu. Yep, this card cannot be removed from the battle area by your opponent's skills.
Okay, cool. So like it's only bad into red, which, unfortunately one of the colors just has that identity. So you play into three of the four colors and know that this card is going to be there and available for you when you want to pop off on the six. Like I think that's really good. It's exactly what the deck needed. Yeah, you wish, it was a better one cost, but like I think they did give you another one cost that does something else. But in general, it looks like the deck was getting a lot of support. I know there's like a new promo. It's a Goku Black.
Oh yeah, and that's actually pretty solid too. It bounces
yeah,
an
so,
Earthling back to your hand.
Yeah, so this isn't like, again, blue's not my color, but I felt like this deck could do some cool stuff. One of my locals here is a very good Dragon Ball player. Doesn't matter which Dragon Ball game, and he loves Goku Black. He's won locals with it against some other good players. So like I know the deck can do well if it got good cards, which I know it did at least in that SR. It should be better. I don't know, man. Like, so when I look at this, I go, did Vegeta really become better than Rose? Because I would have said Rose was better than Vegeta in set 1. And it's like if Vegeta's in tier, like an A tier, then I'm like, well, I mean, I feel like Rose kind of is there as well. But then I wouldn't say that Vegeta and Rose are on the same tier as like Starter Ku and U7 after the recent support. So that's why like this tier list is so strange. It's just tough to get it right and make it feel completely okay. I think it's fine in B tier. Yeah, it's still reliant on like other cards that, if you play into one color specifically, it probably feels absolutely terrible. So I'm fine with B. I don't think this is a bad deck. I just think that, every deck can't be in the same tier. So I think this is where we kind of make our first concession.
Right. I agree. The biggest thing with Goku Black is the deck has to be like 95% Goku Black and Zamasu cards. So you don't have a lot of room for other good blue tech cards because they don't mesh well with the deck. Sure, it's going to be very, very good because now you have more Zamasu and more Goku Black, and there are some good cards they got in this set, but you don't have great cards to throw in there like the Vegito SCR, the Vegito SR, because that takes away consistency. And that's what Goku Black needs. But because it needs that consistency, it loses out on just really good blue staples. So I think Goku Black is a good deck. We both agree Goku Black is a good deck and will be a good deck. But as of now, I need to see I need to see the proper build for it. I need to see it put up results. But for now, I do think it's just going to be a locals B tier leader. For now, that very well could change. That's why this is a prediction video. Let's go on with the third blue leader, and that is my boy Trunks. I love this leader. I think this leader is so much fun. My immediate first thought is throwing it into A tier, but I can also see it being in B tier. All right, I think Trunks could go into A tier for the reason of its ability is very, very good. Being able to bounce a 3 cost back to the owner's hand, whether it's me or my opponent. It has some really cool tech cards like the tournament, not the tournament promo, the 2-drop 30k Trunks that you can swing for 30, bounce back to your hand. Trunks didn't get a whole lot of great support in this set, besides maybe like 2 cards, like specifically designed for Trunks, like the 1-drop Mai, which is on play. If you on play, give one of your opponent's battle cards -1 to their cost. That's not a very good card though. Like, if it was an activate main ability, that'd be different. But it's an on play, you're wasting an energy to play it, to just minus something by 1, when you could just play the 3-drop Vegito and give everything on your opponent's board -1. So, it's a neat tech card, but not a card I can see being played a lot in Trunks builds. It also got the 4-drop Vegeta, Super Saiyan Blue Vegeta, which is, when attacking, you may play the bottom card of your deck if it is a 2-cost future Trunks card. And this card only works if your leader is a future Trunks. So there's some really cool combos in there. Being able to swing 30k with your Vegeta, then play a 30k from the bottom of your deck, which then bounces to the bottom of your deck again, which if your Vegeta lives, you could swing again next turn and pull out another 30k swinger that your opponent can't really do much. But the fact that it is a 4-drop 30k body, it means that, green's going to swing into it and more than likely get rid of it. Red has a lot of great ways to neg it to death. Yellow can keep it tapped down. Blue can just bottom deck it or bounce it back to hand. Like, I don't know. Like, I want to say Trunks is up there because, like, Trunks, like, because it's blue, it got all the amazing generic good blue support that is going to benefit Vegeta. And I was talking to Giancarlo about this. Shout out, friend of the channel here. He was talking to me about how much fun he's having playing Trunks again. And he does believe it is a good deck as well. But the problem is Trunks has a very high player ceiling. Like, you gotta be big brain, I feel like, to play Trunks at its peak. And not a lot of people can do that or want to learn how to do that. While Vegeta is more of a Unga Bunga swing big type deck, Trunks is more of a, think of every action like 3 turns ahead of time type of deck. Like, so, I don't know. I can see it. I want it to be up in A tier, but I can also see it being in B tier. What do you think?
I honestly think it's as good, if not better, than Vegeta. I kind of talked about it. I don't know if we were off camera or not, but like I think its removal is huge. Now, you talked about that My card and you don't think it's going to see much play. I think on the face you're like, like a 1-cost card, it minuses one thing by 1 energy cost. And like with 1 cost, you want them to like get rid of something. You want them to draw you a card or do something else, right? You want it to like, the value of it, you want it to be much more in your face. But what My does is it allows your leader ability now to hit 4 costs, right? Like, people play Trunks and they're like, okay, well, as long as I play 4 costs, I'm safe. Well, My immediately, you pay 1 energy and then nothing else to remove a 4 or less, right? So like, there are some good 4-cost cards in this game that Trunks normally can't hit. Cool. Sickle. In a combo of Sickle, right? If, say, your opponent has a good 3-cost and a good 4-cost, or like, what is Sickle bottom deck? 4s or 3s?
Sorry, what does Sickle do?
Yeah, does Sickle
bottom deck's 2 4-costs or less?
Okay, sick. Well, you play 1 My and then Sickle, and you can get rid of, like in the mirror match, a 5-cost Vegeta or Vegeta Double Striker, Vegito SCR. I think My just helps you gain those little inches to remove certain things. Now, you said you could rather play Vegito. Absolutely correct. It's a 20k body that has the same effect on everything. Cool, but like, there are probably some turns where you want to be able to play My and then another card to remove stuff that fits in your energy. Say if you play My for 1 and then Vegito SCR to then bottom deck a 6 or less, because that 6 becomes a 5 off My. Well, if you play Vegito, say you have 6 energy, well, you have to play another Vegito, or you don't have enough to play Vegito SCR, so you can't get rid of that 6 cost. You paid 3 energy to turn into a 6 to a 5, but what are you getting rid of it, past that point? So like, My just allows certain combos to grab individual cards and bottom deck them or get rid of them and stuff like that. So I think My is a pretty good card, but it's one of those cards that like, when you don't need it, you're like, it's just kind of feels terrible. But when you have it in conjunction and comboed with something else to help remove a card that normally you cannot remove, I think all of a sudden the card looks very, very good. I think you mentioned the SSB Vegeta. Another good card for Trunks. There's all the other generically good blue stuff. Yeah, you're not swinging as tall for nothing the way Vegeta does, but you're able to play a bunch of 1-cost cards, peel off, Trunks cantrip, Hope Slash, like, and do all your return shenanigans to build value. And I still think is really good. So I don't know. Maybe they're both on the same level. They just do it different ways. But I can't help but lean towards Trunks more just because of his built-in removal. Like, I just think in a game like this that's so new, removal is absolutely huge, especially into, say, Tournament of Power. Like, you just once per turn get rid of one of their cards, whether it's the Gohan or Kato Pesla, or you play Mai and get rid of the Kefla. Like, there's just so many ways for you to hit their lower costed cards. So anyway, I think they're both good. I think it's just maybe pick your flavor.
Yeah, you kind of convinced me. And I was even thinking about, like, there are things that you can play the Mai, like things you can do, like you can play the Mai, bounce it back down with your leader, play it again, so you minus something down by 2, which is now in range of something like, Sinister Sickle or other cards that have like a bounce abilities, but you need to like have something be like a 2 cost or below. So yeah, there are some options here, so that's fine. I can totally understand it. So yeah, I think Trunks deserves to be an A tier. I do think he is a big brain deck, and that may hold him back from a lot of people giving him a try. and like learning the matchups. But heck, I put in so much work in this leader. And I still love this leader to death. And I more than likely will give it a shot once Set 2 officially releases, because I'm just going to go through the ring with like all the blue leaders. Speaking of new blue leader, we have Zamasu, fused Zamasu. And after playing against Cody yesterday against this deck with Vegeta, at first I was like, this leader is amazing. And he even agrees. I think this leader is very, very good into specific colors, but I think he gets his butt kicked pretty hard against most other colors. And I think, I think he goes in B tier, because why I said he doesn't do well into a lot of other colors right now is you play this into green, like you're giving green the win, because green wants the long game, but so does this deck. But I think green has a better long game than this leader does. Green will get to 8 energy way quicker than you will get to 8 energy with blue. And they'll play their Brolys, which sure, blue now has options to get rid of those Brolys. But green is just so good at building a great late game that I feel like, sure, the leader can heal a turn. But with green pumping out giant dudes, I think, I don't know, because I think green's its worst matchup. But then I could also make the argument for red, because red just builds up pretty strong bodies, easily being 25k, which will hit this guy for lethal. And red will destroy their board of cards that they want to constantly recycle and combo with, like the Pilafs. For example, like Pilaf's a big one. Red can easily get rid of it. Blue will put up a good fight, but I think its best matchup is into other blue decks. And yellow will just keep their stuff tapped down, like their big boss monsters they want to play late game. And it just, with all that taken into consideration, as of now, it's hard for me to justify putting this any higher than B tier. But what do you think?
Yeah, I think this might be just fine. It is, again, another 25k leader that doesn't draw. Yes, you have the ability to keep reviving one life. That 25k probably slows down, a number of decks, but then, like, as you said, green plays taller bodies, right? So you do have to worry about that. Red, especially U7 and Tournament of Power, essentially that if you don't see what you need to remove certain boards on the crackback, then you're dealing with turn after turn of a bunch of cards that are swinging 25k as well. You just have to come correct with enough removal. So you're playing your sickles, you're playing your cards that minus certain costs, and then the cards that combo well off them. You're playing all your good Gallic guns, final flashes. Like, you're just trying to survive, and out-resource your opponent before you can do your big splash plays, right? Which are Rose, SR, your double strikes, what have you. I haven't seen nearly enough stuff regarding this leader in terms of how it's testing into what and well. Yeah, so I think this is fine. Like, Broly, the thing is, Broly, I would have considered Z-tier. I did consider Z-tier in set 1. Well, then when all of a sudden people started building Starter Coup in red, where they were able to rush it down, kill their 5-cost Goku Cell card before they could get much value off of it, and then put them behind, and the next thing you know, Broly's not drawing any cards unless they're killing their energy, which means that if they didn't get up to 8, they're staying between 6 and 7, which is right below their boss monster threshold. And so then Broly all of a sudden did not look nearly as good towards the end of the set 1 meta. So this leader might be roughly the same, but we just don't know at this point.
Right, exactly. Like, a 25k stat line is so good, but I feel like with all the new tools that every color got and what the playstyle of Zamasu is at this moment, I just don't know. I am fully, prepared to be surprised. And I know when Cody watches this, he's probably going to be mad at me for mad at us for putting it in B tier. But I just think for now, this is what I can see the leader doing. Maybe it will do well in tournaments, but I just think other colors have way too many good tools at their disposals right now for this leader to really shine. But let's start with green. We're halfway through the colors here. We'll try to go a little quicker. Speaking of Broly, Broly was definitely one of the best leaders in set 1, even near the end. Like, if you didn't play a particular deck against it, Broly would pretty much win. But with the new set, like green in particular, it seems like most of the set was more catered to green android support and cell support. But Broly still got a couple good cards, and there are still some good generic green cards that were introduced. Where do you think, as someone who plays green way more than me, where do you think Broly stands?
I think Broly. Okay, so Broly gets worse the more that other colors aside from green have the ability to get rid of cards that cost 4, 5, 6 and higher, of course. Like I said, so recently after playing some Starter Coup, watching people play Starter Coup, other good players play into green players who are good players as well. Just the way they're able to manipulate the board and put in enough pressure that forces the Broly player to make suboptimal plays because there's almost nothing else for them to do, right? Like using their leader ability to kill energy and drawing when they don't have any way to replace it because they got rid of the 5 cost almost immediately. If blue, yellow, other colors start being able to get rid of that 5 cost Goku, then it's just going to continue to get worse. Broly literally, I think, hinges on that card not only being played as soon as it needs to, but sticking around. If you have to keep playing a 5 cost Goku every turn, you're actively losing because you're not playing your 6s, your 7s, your 8s on curve. Like, it's just really bad. I think Broly is... God, dude, I even almost want to push it down to locals and B tier because I seriously feel like it's just losing. Like, what did it get? It got a 7 cost Broly that has no keyword skills. It has an activate main. It's a 10k combo, which is great. 7 cost 40k, but it's activate main, ramp one of your battle cards and one of your opponent's battle cards in rest mode. Like, that effect maybe doesn't matter at the end of the game because your opponent can only use so much energy. But like, you have to get to 7 comfortably first and then be able to tap 7 to play one body comfortably, knowing that you're not going to die on the crackback. And I don't know how you ever feel comfortable playing that 7 cost when you're playing some of these decks on this list, like red, some of the blue decks that can spam and do some crazy stuff as well when they have that much energy late game. Like, I don't know, man. I would put Broly... Like, green does not feel good right now. From my early testing, I'm putting Broly in the B tier. People can make fun of me if they want. It's just, I think that 5 cost Goku goes away, and then once that happens, I don't think there's good enough players, enough good players to figure out what to do from then and how to survive against a lot of these other decks. So I'm gonna go in B tier.
All right, I'm gonna leave this for you because, like, yeah, you play Broly a lot. Broly's one of your favorite decks. Hell, he's one of your favorite characters in the show. So I'll just leave this up to you. I think you make some great points though. Even with the promo Broly that, as a 7 cost draws you 2 on play, is still not the greatest. It's a great card when you look at it, but in context of throwing it into Broly or any other green deck, not so much.
Yeah, I will say it's a deck that if people know to expect it, that they know how to beat it. They figured it out now. If no one's expecting Broly and they don't have exactly what they need to stop him from gaining value and being a good deck, then I think it's going to feel a lot better. I think you could put it into A and I'd be like, whatever. It still doesn't feel that great in the current meta. But like, I think with all the new stuff everyone else is getting, it sucks being a leader that simply hinges on one card that is too easily removed. So that's my final bit.
Absolutely. And like these 25k leaders, Zamasu and Broly, like they are great, but against decks that can pump up their leader well beyond 25k, it kind of loses their luster a little bit. But speaking of a deck that did not lose its luster, in fact, it got so much good support. Green androids. And once again, you've got some great practice with it. Where do you think it goes?
So I'm actually really torn on this. I just played some green androids into specifically the new yellow Vegeta, and it felt awful. Now, I'll preface it also with and you can ask my friend Jamaid, who I was testing with. It was 2 games where I literally drew nothing but the same cards and the 0K combos early in the game, and then I just had nothing to do. But the thing is, why I think it sucks into yellow specifically is you can't get rid of that new Vegeta. Once it's on there and they're protecting it, you can't KO anything in rest mode. All their cards are in rest mode, so you start to just feel like there's nothing for you to do. In general, I'm going to put androids in A. I'm going to put it there because the new dual name is really good. It's I believe a 3 cost. Remind me, 3 or 4 cost.
It's a 4 cost that lets you basically restand 3.
Okay, just needed to know if it was a 4 cost, 3 cost. Because a 4 energy, you kill 2 energy and then put 3 back into your energy from your drop in active mode. So you ramp 1, but you essentially are only paying 1 for it. That card is not once per turn. It does not limit 1 or anything like that. So if mid game, you can pay 4 to then play it, kill 2, pull 3 back. And then if you still have 4 left, you go, okay, cool, tap 4, kill 2, pull 3 back. So you've played 2 20k bodies, ramped twice, and you've only spent a net 2 energy. Very, very good. It still has the most consistent ramp in the extra card, Jiro's Lab. What just sucks is that you got to figure out when you play it because it's still 3 energy, and then if you play it on 3 with 3 energy, you don't get to ramp because you need to pay an extra green to do it. But still very good. It is a leader that is always a 30k when it attacks if you have 6 or more energy, which is something you get to quite fast. You've got a new Jiro card that is a 3 cost 20k. You can swing with it, KO it, and pitch a card from your hand to restand a 17 card, meaning that you can restand the 40k double. It's got some good tools. I like it as a really good green shell. It might be the best deck for the new Cell SR because you're able to ramp so much consistently that by the time you can tap 8 for it, you may have more than 8. And so killing 3 energy doesn't feel that bad because on your next turn, you charge and lab and you've already got 2 of your energy back. So I do like it a lot. The Cell and Cell Junior engine is good because those are all androids, meaning that you can run that engine and still have the same consistency with Jiro's Lab, ramping androids specifically from your drop. And then because you have so much energy from ramping, if you survive long enough, you get to just flat out play those Cell Juniors for 2 cost 15Ks that grab an extra. Who cares if you don't have the Cell on board to do it for free? Pay 2 for 15k body, grab a Meteor back, and then swing, pay 1 for Meteor. And so for 3 energy, you can spit out these 40k attacks should you have the right cards in hand, multiple of them. So I do like it a lot. I think it's just a really bad matchup into some of the new yellow stuff, especially the new yellow Vegeta. But overall, I do think it's a very solid green deck right now.
Perfect. Yeah, I think you're right. I think yellow in particular, it's just not a great time. But into other colors, it puts up a really good fight. And we can't penalize it for being really bad into one color when it puts up a great fight into the other 3 colors. So I think I'll give it its potential here, throwing it into A tier. Next, we have Green Gohan, which grab the wrong thing again. Green Gohan, which was what a lot of people would say was the best deck in set 1 for a long time. But once again, kind of like the green issue, the green really didn't get a whole lot of generic good cards. It got great green android and green cell support. So Gohan was absolutely A tier, Z tier in set 1. But going to set 2, I'm not too sure anymore. It's still a great deck. The deck is still stupid good.
Yeah.
Would you say it still deserves to be in Z tier now?
No, I do not.
You think you throw it into A tier as well?
Green, when I really say that shit gets rushed down by red, it's I'm not kidding. It's able to apply much pressure. Yellow is able to apply much pressure and then also protect itself from its KO skills, meaning that half the colors I think are good into green now. And then I haven't played enough of the green blue matchup against blue's new tools, like across all its leaders. So I can't really say for sure there. It just feels like people have figured out how to make green uncomfortable. Green has had really strong cards, but they cost a lot because you're ramping. So of course that's how they try to balance it.
Right.
And when green could sleepwalk to high energy levels to then play their bombs, green felt so overpowered, so broken. But I think now entering set 2, most colors have enough tools that I think that they can pivot and really pressure green to make them uncomfortable to where when they get to late game, they can't simply go tap 8 Broly win or turn the entire tide, because now your opponent has enough tools to maybe survive better, but then also crack back harder. So I think Gohan is still up there because it's a green leader that draws on both sides. It has a really good activate battle that is on both turns, obviously. You do kill an energy, so you do have to be wary of that. If you don't have the 5-cost Goku, you're maybe not using it all that often. But I think it's one of those abilities that, like, you're fine not using it that often and only when you need to. So killing an energy when you have to survive, killing an energy when you're going for game, of course, like stuff like that. So I still think it's a good green shell. It just does it differently. And it did get a new card in the 3-cost Goku. It's a 15k that you play it for 3. You can swing if your opponent's unawakened. It's still a lethal swing. And then it's an activate main that says you can choose up to one of your opponent's battle cards and add it to their energy and rest mode, and then add this card to your energy and rest mode. So you can pay 3, swing, don't choose one of your opponent's battle cards, and then you ramp Goku either at the end of the turn or you do it immediately. I don't know. One of them. So it's a better destructive strength because, well, it's not an active mode ramp. It is still a ramp 1, but it's a 5-cost combo if you're not playing it, which means it's not a dead card like destructive strength became. So they did get good support. Is it exactly what the deck needed to keep being Z-tier? I don't think so. I think it's just a solid deck. People will still play it really well, but it's not in Z-tier, for my opinion.
No, I get it. Like, would you still say it deserves to be an A-tier?
Yes, A-tier. Yes, it's still just like Droid's a good green shell. As long as, like, unlike Broly that stops drawing for half the game, like it's still a good green deck. It draws on both sides. It doesn't have a big drawback. It's good.
All right. And for those who are still watching this, first of all, thank you for continuing to watch us. And 2, any decks that are in Top Cut, we can still see being, able to win an actual like regional or bigger tournament. These are just decks that you will easily see in the Top Cut. And then finally we have the brand new green boy of the set, Green Cell. Mm-hmm. You've been once again practicing a lot with this one, so I will defer to you once more. Where do you think Cell stands? I think he's got a great engine and archetype so far. He's got a great boss monster, and the 8-drop Cell, I think that card is nuts. I love how Cell Game Arena will let you draw 1 for free every turn or ramp an energy. And the Cell Junior combo combined with Gigantic Meteor is incredibly good. Like, I could easily see this being at least A-tier, but I wouldn't be surprised if through your testing you would have discovered something different. So talk to me. Where do you think Cell goes?
I'd probably settle with A-tier. I haven't played it nearly as much as I would like. Still trying to figure out what the best build is, because like I said, the Droids leader I think is the best Cell engine, the SR, Cell Junior stuff deck. Like, I think it's just easiest to be played in there. But Cell's ability to ramp from 5 to 6 just like for free is really cool. People will probably struggle trying to always land on 5 to begin a turn after charging right to then get the free thing. Well, you got to look at it as this. Like, if it doesn't curve the way you want and you start a turn with 5 energy, instead of just drawing for turn and being like, oh, whatever, take the L and charge. No, you keep the card to your hand and then you charge with your ability. So like that, if you can't charge for turn plus use ability, like get exactly to 5 to then go to 6, you're essentially drawing 2 that turn, 1 off start a turn and then 1 from your leader without having to charge 1 and get rid of like 1 from your hand, right? So if anything, the ability is the really convenient ramp, or it's just an extra draw for the turn. I think that's how you need to look at it. Again, it's a leader that draws on both sides, unlike Broly. And then the Cells Arena is a cool card. It's a 4-cost extra card. So similar to how Droids like has to spend a turn. Actually, I don't think for Cells Arena, excuse me, that you need to pay an energy to ramp or use its effect. I think you literally send or
there's no energy requirement. You literally just draw one a turn or ramp one for free.
Right. So like Giroux's Lab for droids is you have to pay for the ramp, right? But it covers itself because you ramp in active mode. Well, Arena costs one more, but you for free get to look at the top card and choose whether to add it to hand. Again, another draw, a potentially 2 to 3 card draw per turn deck with this thing. Or if you want to ramp it, you can ramp it in rest mode. So another way to consistently ramp. Why I think that card's so cool is like depending on the situation, I love that it allows you to choose what you want to do with it. Because say it's a turn where you're like, I'm going to kill you this turn. And so when you use it and you look at the top card, you go, if it's a 10k combo, hell yeah, you're keeping it in your hand. If it's a dead card, you're like, there's no reason to put it in my hand, so I'll ramp it in rest mode. So I love that it gives you that opportunity. To decide what you want to do with it. I think it's absolutely huge. There's like the Gingertown disaster card. There's the Awaken to Perfection 7-cost extra, which I think is just kind of meh. You're never using it because you just kill your energy sooner and have less. I don't like that at all. The Gingertown card could be really good if you play a human Earthling based early game where you go Bulma, Chi-Chi, Searcher Gohan, yada yada yada. And they survive on turn 3 because then if you slam that down, you're maybe ramping 2, hell, even 3 if you saw that many cantrips through your first 2 turns. That's huge. I just don't think that's going to be super consistent. There's a lot of small removal, a lot of decks that just say play this card, get rid of a 1, whether it's KO, bottom deck, it, whatever. But either way, as long as you have 1 Earthling, then by the time you play the Tragedy, then you're ramping. But then it's no different than Destructive Strength. So I just don't know. As far as the rest of the cards, it's still good green stuff. It's just a good green deck. Pick your flavor, right? They all have different abilities. As long as they're drawing on both sides, I like them better than Broly. And then just figure it out from there. I just haven't played like a ton. You got the Future Gohan, Future Trunks package. All good cards, but I think Cell is a little more complicated than every green leader prior to now. And someone's going to figure it out and probably make it feel way better than I think it is right now. Otherwise, I just think it's good, solid green deck. It should probably be an A tier as well.
Okay. I was going to say, like, you kind of make the argument for it to be in B or A, but you're leaning more towards A?
Yeah, I think A. I think it's just, it doesn't rely on a specific card living. Again, Broly, like that's just the biggest thing why Broly's in B. It needs one specific card to live. And these other ones are like, no, we'll just continue to draw cards and do like our own thing.
All right. Well, I think that's going to do it for the green. All right. I think this section here is going to be yellow. I think it's going to be a little quicker to go through this. Frieza was one of the best leaders nearing the second half or at the end of the first meta. And there are people that will make arguments for it to be up in Z because its leader ability is just absolutely insane. Its ability to create a wide board is also nuts. But like I could also see it being in A tier because a lot of colors now have great removal. Blue and red have just amazing removal now to clear yellow's wide board. What do you think though? I can see this. I think this probably will be an A tier. I don't think it's a Z tier deck anymore.
Gosh, that's really tough. So like the good stuff, some of the good yellow stuff, like the Vegeta, it protects your rest mode cards, and Frieza's thing is untapping them, right? So like, I don't know how much you are going to use some of the Vegeta Goku stuff. I think you probably use Goku because of it's way too good. It's right 4 cost 25k. The turn it's played, you're freezing 2 things, and then if it survives from there, you're always freezing 1 thing.
Right, and then you also have the Android 18 that does the same thing on play and when attacking. I believe it rests something down.
Right. So like, I don't think you're running the Vegeta as much because you need that to stay in rest mode, and then you need the stuff it's protecting to stay in rest mode. You're still probably running like Bulma probably for the draw engine. you're protecting stuff naturally, right, from being swung into. So your opponent does have to use their like removal on those things specifically. So it's a little bit of built-in protection.
That's tough.
I still think it loses to red. I still think it loses to red, but it's still a good. Like, obviously, this tier list, as you can see, it's just like a ton of A. Like that's why we think all these decks are very playable. It just feels like everything is so clustered. Like I haven't played enough yellow recently to really give an informed opinion here, like one that I feel confident in.
But like yellow in general felt like it didn't get a whole lot of, like it got some really cool generic cards, but like the Frieza deck always seemed to do well with, like I don't know if you would want to start running like a lot of non-Frieza clan or Frieza army cards, because that does remove a bit of the consistency of Frieza. But there are so many great generic yellow cards that you could tell were designed to be thrown in the new yellow Vegeta, but could also be really good in Frieza. But with how good red is going into this format, like you said, it's yellow has a hard time dealing with red's, board control. So like that's the tough part. Yeah, like yellow is going to be a bit of a rough one. I don't know. Like Frieza was so good in set 1 that it's hard to not want to put him in set 1. But I think he's high on the A tier, I think, at the end of the day.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think we're ranking him within tiers.
Yeah, no, we're definitely not. We're just throwing him in tiers.
Just by color. Yeah, so like I think, people have just been running Frieza where you run like the frog package and you just try to like protect him to a degree where you build such a big hand and then you end up by like winning because you just out-resource your opponent. Like Time Rewind, good card if you want to utilize blockers, which like you can because you like Frieza, right? You can play these good blocker cards and then restand them for them to block on defense after swinging with them offensively. But then you allow Time Rewind to like, block with a 25k or whatever it is. Time Rewind, save it, restand it so it can block again. Like your opponent's going to be forced to really use up a lot of their removal to push through Frieza's potential defenses. It got the Awakening to Blue card, which, helps get rid of like bigger bodies. I think it did get better. I don't feel confidently putting it in Z tier. I haven't had it in my hands. I haven't seen it do a ton, but it's still such a good deck. I think it's one of the better decks in A tier, and that's probably as far as I'll go.
Yeah, I think it's definitely still one of the better decks. But like you mentioned, I think every color in a lot of decks right now got so much good generic or specific support that are just making them, feel better to play, feeling like they're more complete. Now, speaking of decks that.
So yeah, let's I think you said this color is going to go faster, and this is why it's going to go faster. Okay, so actually, I will put I'm going to put Ginyu in B, low B. No, B tier, low
B tier. Okay, I said D tier for a second.
So the deck still does its crazy thing, which I think when you play against uneducated players, that you're going to get them if they don't know what to expect or how to handle it. I think you can get locals. That's why I have it here, right? It did just get some like some support. It's like a Ginyu that you switch to rest mode, give 2 things 5k power. So basically what you do is you figure out how to play it. The only reason is that because they made it a Ginyu, you can't play SR Ginyu and then untap 2 to play the new one that then you switch to rest mode to buff things, because you can't play Ginyus after you play the SR, which I think was really dumb. They needed to make the new support a non-Ginyu character so you could do that. So now you have to pay 2 for the new thing, and then I don't know, then play like Ginyu or play Raccoon and then to Ginyu SR into something else, but then like that means you have 5 energy, which is not what you want to do. So like the support's fine for it. I just don't think it's like what it needed. Whatever. I just think it's a locals deck. You can play it, win some games.
Yeah.
Fine. it's on the verge of missing something because it sure is locked behind literally Ginyu Force cards. So these leaders that say they're basically blank draw one leaders unless you run very specific traded cards, I think are not good and are always going to be missing something. So like, you know what? Fuck it. Put it in missing something.
Yeah, I think this card, it got one card for support. It doesn't really work well with any of the other generic good yellow stuff. And even that one card it got is okay. Like, yeah, it gives two of your 20Ks an additional 5K boost, which is really, really good, especially into things like Broly or Fuse Zamasu. But for the most part, it's just 2-drop cards are going to be so easy to get rid of. Blue just bounces them back to hand. Or bottom decks them. Red will just neg them to death. Like, it does one thing, and if it doesn't do that one thing like perfectly, and it will lose. So yeah, once again, sorry to all Ginyu fans. Ginyu is just, it's lacking. It's missing something. Next up,
it needs something. Sorry, it needed to not be a Ginyu card because you have to pay the 2 for it. And then that's 2 energy you could have used on other Ginyu cards that would have spammed more and done more. It's just not good. It's very unfortunate. Let's go quick through Cooler. My favorite leader art. My favorite. I really love this day. Oh, it's missing something for sure. Missing something. I am so upset that. So set 2 came out, or it's been revealed, and Cooler got no support. And by that I mean like no real support that like changes anything. So you got a 1-cost Cooler card that when it's played, I actually don't think it does anything, but you can pay 1, activate main, pay 1. Is it pay 1? No, pay 3. Return it to your hand to play out a 4-cost Cooler. So if you establish it turn 1, say you're going second. So turn 2, going second, you can crack the energy marker and tap 2 and play out the Cooler early. That's cool. But like, then you're still just swinging like a 4-cost 30K once at your opponent. And then like your opponent has to deal with it. Well, they'll eventually have what they need to remove a 4-cost. Like, I just don't think getting that Cooler out a turn early is giving you much value because your opponent's taking those early hits, regardless if you're swinging 15, 20, or 30. And then they got a new 4-cost 25K King Cold and a new 4-cost 25K Mecha Frieza. I think they're both blockers, and I think they both do something when KO'd.
The King Cold is actually not too bad. The Mecha Frieza, I'm not a fan of.
The Mecha, I think, is bad. I don't even know the top of my head. I just know I read it and I said this is not going in Cooler. It's not better than what you'd already have, like 4-cost Frieza clan wise for the effect. And then like King Cold's fine, but again, you're playing 2 things off his effect and restanding them. You're always playing the 4-cost 40K Frieza, and you're playing the 4-cost 30K Cooler SR.
Wait, hold on. You're talking about Cooler as a leader ability. I thought it was like you can choose to restand a card, not play one.
No, sorry. You're playing the 4-cost cards to use with the ability.
Okay.
Because none of the other ones matter. You're not playing the King Cold to swing once 25K and then restand it to then hold it up as a blocker, because that's not doing what Cooler wants to do. Cooler wants to kill. You're not going to like pitch a card from hand to then maybe block 1 attack next turn. I just don't think that's worth the trade-off. Not at all. You're swinging 2 40s or you're swinging 2 30s and resting and KOing things and stuff with either Frieza or the cool effect of on attack with Cooler SR. So it got no support. Like no good 4-cost Frieza clan battle cards that make worth playing over the previous set SRs, and you got no extra cards that really make the cut in terms of what Cooler wants to do, which again is spamming. I think Cooler's leader effect is now bad. It was good in set 1 to a degree because they balanced it by pitching a card. Well, in set 2, it's not nearly as good because there's so much removal for 4-cost cards now.
Yep.
So you're getting the effect once, right? You're never usually having a turn cycle go by where you get to then swing twice with 40K Frieza again. You're just not.
Yeah.
So it's just a bummer. It's not a good deck anymore. The Cooler Armor Squadron cards that came in the archetype are all butt cheeks. They were so bad. None of them were played in set 1. None of them will ever be played in set 2 either. So it's a bad deck. It's missing something. They need to really help it out.
Yeah, agree. And it sucks is like Cooler was such a cool idea and a cool concept at the beginning of set 1. and it's kind of sad to see it drop so low going into set 2. But yeah, I mean, Frieza just does it better. Ginyu kind of does the whole play wide board aggression thing better. Like, Cooler really doesn't do much to really stand out. Like, his ability compared to Frieza's is awful. But yeah, I think you made some great points, Soury Cooler. I agree. I love this artwork. I pulled this alt art. You have it. Maybe one day it will be good again. But for now, it has fallen from grace. And finally, to wrap up this whole thing, the brand new yellow Super Saiyan Blue Vegeta. I'm going to go ahead and just kind of make the claim it's an A tier. Like, it's joining the long list of other decks played in A tier. But the leader is, like, the deck just seems to be incredibly defensive. Like, you build such a sturdy wall that you can, it's kind of a slower game. It feels like you're building up your defenses, but you're controlling your opponent's board, keeping things in rest mode, tapping things down. And just, it's a great control deck in my opinion. But you've got some more time with it recently. What do you think?
I think it is a very good deck. I think it makes life hard for green. The biggest issue is we just needed good activated battle cards, because what's the point of restanding 2 if not? Well, you're restanding 2 to defend your rest mode cards. Frieza untap stuff to protect them naturally, while Vegeta has energy to then protect them with extra cards and stuff like that. The Vegeta Bulma stuff is really good. You draw a lot of cards. I've seen people deck out because they establish so many Bulmas that aren't once per turn, so you just like draw a billion cards. I think it's really cool. It is kind of a similar 20-25k deck where your cards kind of waft around there. 20k spam sort of is kind of seemingly Yellow's thing. But yeah, I just think it's a good card, man. It's able to utilize the new good Yellow stuff. It draws a lot. It's defensive.
There's some really cool play lines with this. Like the Cooler SR, I think goes hard in this deck. Being able to, when attacking or tap or when blocking, to tap something down on your opponent's board. There's a lot of cards that allow you to save. Like you can block with Cooler to tap something down on your opponent's board, and then use an extra card to restand that Cooler. So now you have an opportunity to block something and tap something else down. Like, there's a lot of really good defensive yellow cards. This deck, I think, is another big brain deck. It's very similar in a lot of ways to Frieza, but I feel like it's even more defensive than Frieza.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
no, I agree.
Like, it's hard for me to tell like what Yellow's like top end is, because like, I mean, Yellow's boss monster is 5-drop Frieza. That's about it. But beyond that, I mean, like, you're just controlling your opponent's board. You're playing your big guys. You're tampering them down. You're taking them down little bit by little bit. But once you get to that point, like where you can go in for the game, it's game over. I think Yellow is such in a great spot going into this next set. Maybe not as good as Red, maybe on the same level as like Blue, maybe even slightly better than Blue. But I think Yellow has gotten a whole new play style going into set 2, and I'm very excited to see how well this deck does.
Yeah, me too. I think it's going to be better than I initially thought, and I'm excited to see.
Perfect. Well, guys, this will be the prediction tier list. This will more than likely change once we get our hands on the cards, and once tournaments start happening. We'll do another tier list later down the line, maybe like a month after the official launch, and once we've gotten some more tournament data under our belts. And like I said, this will more than likely change. But as of right now, we've kind of, agree that Tournament of Power Goku is going to be a incredibly dangerous deck going into the next format. It's probably going to be the best deck going into it, unless people figure out a way to properly counter it. But we'll have to wait and see going into the next meta. But I think I'm pretty comfortable with this list. I could see Goku Black and Zamasu being a little bit higher. I could also see Broly, but I mean, we can't put every deck into A tier. There's got to be some decks that just aren't as good. But I can definitely see some decks from A and B swapping places. So we'll just have to see. But what do you? Any last comments? Any last things you want to say?
Yeah, for people who are actually still watching it and listening to it, not skipping ahead.
Hey, you guys are great.
Yeah, you guys are great. This is very much a predictions thing. It's limited testing, you know, but like we just really wanted to discuss it. We really wanted to bring content, start discussion. The set's right around the corner. So again, could be very wrong. We're not above being very wrong, but at least we tried our best with our thoughts. And if you disagree, give us your thoughts below. And I'll just tell you right now, you better come correct, because there's a difference between us spending an hour talking about all this and you saying, well, you won a locals once against a bunch of blah, blah, blah decks, you know, so your deck's good. I don't know. Like, either way, no, we had a good time. Hope you guys enjoyed it, and just really excited to see where this meta comes through.
Absolutely. All right, thank you guys once again for checking out this video, and for those who stayed until the very end, you are the MVPs. Absolutely. Make sure to hit that like and subscribe button. If you like Dragon Ball Super Fusion World content, you are in the right place. We're going to be doing a lot of deck profiles, a lot of testing games. When the set comes out, when we get these cards in our hands, we're going to do a couple box opening videos, at least on my side of things. And yeah, I'm excited for set 2. It feels like it's been forever, but we're only a couple days away at the time of recording this, about 6 days away. By the time this goes up, probably even less than that. Thank you, Michael, once again for being the best co-host. Yeah, we'll be back here in about a month to redo the tier list and see if anything has changed. You still there?
Yeah, I'm there. I was getting up from my chair and I didn't want to make a bunch of noise.
Oh, no worries. All right, guys. Thank you so much for checking out this video once again. Until the next one, take care.